Hello everyone, this is Gary from Fantastic Fundas, and in this lecture today I will be talking to you about the moderate phase of the Indian nationalistic movement, and this movement lasted from 1885 to 1905. Okay, now in earlier lecture the Congress was formed, right? That is just at the beginning of the 1885. But what do you understand by the moderate phase? We'll talk about that. Okay, and then we'll also talk about the various administrative reforms and constitutional reforms, and was this phase successful or was it a failure, and how did it end up, and all those things, right? And once we are finished with this lecture, okay, so we'll talk about the details of this now, right? And once this chapter ends up, after the details part, in next lecture I will talk to you about the governor generals, right? Governor generals and some other few important instances, happenings of this period. Okay, then I'll talk about that. Okay, and in moderate phase this will be covered in two lectures. In this is like one part of the lecture, and second, the partition of Bengal, now that I'll talk to you. Okay, partition of Bengal, that will be a separate lecture, the next one after this. And then after that we'll come to governor generals, right from 1885 to 1905, where we left the governor generals last. Okay, and after governor generals are done, we'll move from there to the rise of the extremists, right? And then the moderates and the extremists, right? And then all the story of Surat split and Lucknow pact, and later on coming of Gandhi and Gadar and whatever, right? All those things would be done later on. Okay, so we'll now begin with this lecture. Okay, now before I begin with the lecture, I would like to give you a very clear idea of who are moderates. There have been questions in various examination asked, very simple question, as simple as that which of the following are moderate leaders. So I would like to give you a list of few moderate leaders. Otherwise this lecture would not have much of rote learning. This lecture would be mainly about understanding things. Okay, so we'll begin with the learning part first. Now this is the first important person, is the Vomesh Chandra Banerjee. Number two over here now is one is Vomesh Chandra Banerjee. Then I'll quickly name them. Okay, you know most of the people. So we have Dada Bhai Nauroji. I would not write the full names because you know them, right? Then there was Firoz Shah Mehta, PHE. Okay, then Surendranath Banerjee. All these are moderate leaders, right? Anand Mohan Bose, I've already taken his name earlier many a times. And R.C. Dutt was there. Okay, R.C. Dutt. And then Dwarkanath Ganguly. Dwarkanath Ganguly. Dwarkanath Ganguly, he actually started a journal. It was known as Abla Bandhan Journal. I have not talked about it earlier. Abla Bandhan Journal. Okay, Abla Bandhan Journal. It was journal. Right now, the Dwarkanath Ganguly was there, and then there also comes Kadambini Ganguly, right? Kadambini Ganguly. I've already talked about her in detail, and then she was the first medical graduate in the Western medical sciences in the South Asia, and then over here we know about M.G. Ranade. His organization was one of the most successful organizations. Gokhale ji was there, Pandit Gokhale, and then Ras Bihari Rash Bihari Ghosh was there, right? So such things were there. Okay, these are the important leaders of that time, right? So these are their names. Now, one of the most important contributions, one of the, in fact, the most important happenings of the period of the moderates, it was the constitutional reforms that happened. This is the symbol that I use for constitution. This is not a standard symbol; it is a personalized symbol. So, constitutional reforms are there that happened. And what are those reforms? They happened in the shape of the Indian Council Act of 1892, right? So, what actually happened that because in the time of British there was so many problems. For example, there was a problem of corruption, and then there was problem of inefficiency by Britishers, right? Inefficiency, and then also there was problem of oppression by the Britishers. I can say that oppression. Now, you will find that all these things that I'm going to talk about in Indian Council Act, Their problems are exist even in 2015. That is the shocking part of it. You know, I mean, what is happening over there is still happening today also. That is the most sad part of the whole story. Okay, so about Indian Council Act, in this background, right? There was a demand for change, and obviously there was no Indian representation, right? So this Indian Council Act of 1892, it marks the beginning of the parliamentary system in India. So one keyword over here is the parliamentary system that you have to mention whenever you write about this. It marks the beginning of the parliamentary system in India, and it introduced the principle of representation, right? Principle of representation by this Indian Council Act. And then it one more thing happened. It authorized like many people, many institutions in themselves to send members to provincial councils. So what were these? They were recognized universities, district boards, right? And then municipalities were there. Municipality, they could do this. And after municipality, zamindars, right? Agriculture ho gaya, zamindar. And then chamber of commerce. Now this is related to business, right? Chamber of commerce. So everyone, like a lot of people over here, they could send members to provincial councils. The provincial council may they could send the member, right? Now, this Indian Council Act of 1892, this basically was looking for expansion and reform of legislative council. So all the they could get was this, like there was a demand for legislative council reform, and what was given was this, right? And this Indian Council Act of 1892 mainly prepared by a person called Lord Dufferin, right? I have already named him so many times. I hope you know about him. Okay, so Dufferin was there, right? And number of members. This is how the number of members in the provincial assembly were increased. Okay, and similarly, and the number of members to the legislative council were also increased. Okay, and so many of them were directly elected, some were indirectly elected. Okay, and so but the important thing is that the number of additional members that could be appointed, number of additional members, if you remember from the last act, it was like the governor general could appoint 6 to 10 members, and but this was increased now from he could appoint 10 to 16 members, right? And out of these, these half of these, whatever was appointed, they were to be even elected from this thing, you know proving from the provincial level. That was the key. Okay, out of the half had to come from provincial level, right? And then what were the more things given by this bill? Members could now discuss the budget. They could ask oral questions, but they could not ask supplementary questions. At present in parliament, this thing that oral questions are start questions, and those start questions can be asked in parliament, and supplementary questions are allowed to those. But at that time, supplementary questions were not allowed, right? And then in 1892 to 1909, I'll give you a very shocking statistic about the whole thing. From 1892 to 1909, that is when you have this Parliamentary reforms coming. This Imperial Legislative Council, right? The central authority which was making the law, it worked only for 13 days a year. 13 days per year. Now this is shocking because even the earlier one, right? If you remember 1862, that 1862 Act, from that to 1892, it was working for 25 days per year. But this has dropped down to just 13 days per year, which has created a lot of problem. And number of unofficial Indian members ultimately was only 5 out of the 24, because there had to be few unofficial members, and that was the problem here. Okay, and at this time there was also so in this background, right, this is the Indian Council Act of 1892. At this time, so a slogan came from Indians, which was no taxation without representation. This was originally an American slogan, right? And this has a great relation with the American Revolution and American War of Independence, right? Actually, what happened during the 1750s and 60s, there was grievance against the Britishers, right? Britishers were ruling USA. The Britishers were the colonialists, and America was a colony, right? And they had like 13 colonies in America. So what they did was, they had no representation. So there came this slogan. They were also being taxed. Americans said, we will not pay you taxes if you don't give us representation. And this also leads to one of the reasons for American Revolution, right? This is there. So this slogan was raised in India also now, because Britishers were exploiting us and we were paying taxes, but there was no representation of Indians in the Legislative Council. So partially this was addressed by the Indian Council Act of 1892, but in reality it was very far away, right? So conclusion, what is the conclusion? How do you judge this in Indian Council Act of 1892? There was a mockery, तो मजाक उड़ गया, mockery of the demands of nationalists. Whatever the nationalists demanded, there was a mockery of it as if they don't exist, right? So despotism ruled, right? Despotism ruled. There was no rule of law. And so in this background, right, we raised a new demand over here. So new demand was raised. What was that new demand now? In this background at this time, this was after the 1892 Act was notified by the government. So with new demand was now of Swarajya or self-rule. Swarajya. Swa means self and Raj is the rule. So self-rule is what we are looking for here, right? And this was on the model of the colonies, self-governing colonies. I mean, they were colonies of British, but they were self-governing. For example, you have Canada or you have Australia. That is why even in these countries' flags, you find that Union Jack flag of United Kingdom, right? So this Swarajya. Now this demand was how do we know this? Because this demand was first made by Gokhale in 1905, and then this was made by Nauroji, Naroji, Nauroji in 1906, right? So this is how it went on, right? And Britishers actually, if there were not to be many reforms, why did Britishers bring this act at the beginning? There was a reason to it, because they just wanted to let the steam of the political steam, so that let off the political steam. Okay, so why one is the political steam is let off, right? They will just cool down, and they knew that they could just lend their voice, right? But no real action was taken in reality. Okay, so how was the nation's response? Now, how was the national response to the coming of the Indian Council Act of 1892? Right, people were very angry, right? People ventilated popular grievances, right? They submitted acts and policies of government to ruthless examination. Every clause passed by the Britishers was thoroughly examined by the people, right? And not only this, people examined the intent of the Britishers also, and they also examined their methods of implementing the law and the consequences that might come up with the passing of the Indian Council Act of 1892. So you look at this, right? How in detail Indians are examining this act. Basically, Indians are still they're examining the intent. Why are they examining the intent? Because they had full faith in Britishers, in good faith that they will do us some good, right? And so this opposition to the Indian Council Act of 1892, it raised the stature of lot of political leaders. We will be talking about them soon, right? And then this the safety wall, the Britishers were calling Indian National Congress a safety valve, right? But this safety valve was rather opposite thing were happening for Britishers, because now this Congress over here, the safety wall, was a major channel for national propaganda against the British policies. It was this act to certain extent confirmed to Indians that Britishers are here for no good, right? But they were still not 100% confirmed about it, right? So all the speeches were published in newspapers against the Britishers, and people got educated. So there were a lot of response happening. So right. So there are a few important, members of the council. Right, as I said, many Indians came the member of the council after 1892 Act. Few Indians became the member of the council, and I would like to name them. And one was Surendranath Banerjee. Number two is Anand Mohan Bose. So this way you'll remember these are also the moderate leaders only, right? W.C. Banerjee, he was also there. So whosoever I just named earlier, again, right? All those people. And then Raj Bihari Ghosh. Oh, Raj Bihari Ghosh is an interesting case because he was a member under the 1862 Act also, right? 1861 or 62, whatever that was, 1861 Act, right? Then number five is P. Ananda Charlu. He was also a moderate and a member of the council, right? After the 1892 Anand P. Anand Charlu. And then there were many more people, right? This person, right? Vijay Raghavacharya, right? Vijay Raghavacharya or Veera Raghavacharya, whatever his name is, right? Probably it was Vijay Raghavacharya only, right? Number seven, Tilak, of course, was there. Right, Tilak is there, and Mehta is there, and Gokhale is there. Okay, so these people were also there. Actually, these people, Gokhale and Mehta, they were specialized. Actually, they were lawyers, and they specialized in how to use the council, how to use council, right? And for for generating the spirit in the citizens of India to fight against the Britishers, right? And of course, these two people were moderates, right? So that is how the Indian Council Act of 1892 plays an important role. But our moderate phase, there are a few more things I would like to talk to you regarding the moderate phase, right? So there were other many, these were the constitutional reforms of the moderate phase. We are doing moderate phase from 1885 to 1905. So what were the other administrative reforms that happened during this period? We'll talk about those. First of all, there was this huge demand, right? There was a huge demand for the indigenization of the services. Indigenization of services was uh, being sought, right? On the and it was sought on three reasons actually, right? One was the social, one was the economic, and one was the moral ground. And so what was the social ground? I mean, one was not social, right? One was political. So why social? Okay, so social is also justified in a way actually, because by social I mean, you can serve the Indians better only if you are an Indian. How a foreigner can serve India? Indian normal in normal circumstances you can serve India better only in social. So social justification is there for indigenization of services, right? Political is that right? If there are more Indians, so that would make administrative would be more responsive to the demands of the Indians. And the economic theory is that Europeans were paid high salaries, and those salaries would go out of India, and that would be a burden on India, known as the drain of wealth theory. And then there was a moral ground also. After all, we are Indians, we are being governed, our money is paying salary. Who the hell are you to join the services, right? So that is like another ground, right? So why only Indians are allowed in the why the only Britishers were allowed in the services, that was being questioned, right? And then nationalists like did a lot of things. They so demanded, or they supported in support of so many. For example, they wanted to separate judiciary and executive. And why was that? Because you see, to save the people from the arbitrary acts of the police or bureaucracy. So to say that these excesses against the people, this demand was made to separate judiciary and executive, right? And then there was also this aggressive foreign policy was opposed by everyone. Aggressive foreign policy, right? Aggressive foreign policy. Now these were the few demands of Indians. Some of them were met, some were not met, right? For example, right, the Britishers annexed Burma. We know this thing. We have discussed this in detail, right? They attacked on Afghanistan, and they suppressed people in the northwestern part of the country. Right, these things were opposed by the Congress and other people, right? So there were also development of agricultural banks at that time. Agricultural banks, okay, and to save peasants from the money lenders. That happened during this time, right? And then there were more things like, we sought better medical and health facilities. This is what we were seeking from British. Such basic things we still are seeking them from the government, are not we still asking for better civil service examination process in India, if not in this way, in different way, right? So such things are being there, right? So after medical and health, we also sought honest, efficient, and popular police. So we were looking for the police reforms. We still need these reforms. So you see a lot of similarity between 1885 to 1905 to the 2015, right? Now, in defense of Indian workers, right, who had been like they support in the defense of Indian workers. Why I am talking about this? Because what is happening is that Indian workers, they were forced out of poverty to go to foreign countries. For example, they had to go to South Africa or Canada or Mauritius or West Indies or British Guyana. So such, they were forced to go there, and they were suppressed over there. Like Gandhi also faced the same thing in South Africa, in particularly, right? And there were, of course, a lot of people. During all this while only, right, there were a lot of seditious speeches by the people, right? As I just talked about the speeches, right, and so-called seditious speeches which was seditious as per the British government. Okay, so so these seditious speeches which were being made, and the government of Britain said, the British government in India said that these speeches are spreading the disaffection in the world, and this disaffection must end. So because of this, the law was passed, and there's like section 124A in IPC dealing with this. Now, what happened, what was announced, that in 1800, because of this law, in 1897 Tilak was arrested. Okay, and Tilak, Bal Gangadhar Tilak, I mean, right, he was arrested and he was tried for this offense of sedition, right, and he was given a long imprisonment. And so much of people were agitated on this because of the Congress activities of the time, that Tilak became very popular all India leader. Lokmanya Tilak, the women of his area gave him this title, right? So he became an all India leader. Before this, he was known in Maharashtra only. And then also here at this time, there were two leaders from Pune, also called as the Pune leader, whose name was Natu brothers. These Natu brothers, they were arrested without trial by the Britishers, and this generated lot of anger against the Britishers over here at this time, right? So this is how the things were happening right now. I know that was like the administrative reforms which were sought or partially done by the Britishers, and constitutional reforms. Now, after the Act of 1892 was passed, what else was done? So, I would like to talk to you about the methods of political work, right? After the political work, because everyone had to think that how are they going to oppose the Britishers, and because the British did not agree to the demands in the Act of 1892, something had to be done. So, these leaders, what they did, their method of struggle, these were moderate leaders only who were opposing Britishers here. And these leaders over here, their main method of struggle was the constitutional agitation only, right? And by constitutional agitation, I mean they would remain within the law. Constitutional agitation, they would remain within the law, okay, and but then they would oppose the government. That's how they were, right? Now this was it was a very slow political progress at this time. Okay, slow political progress, the way, because the moderate way was there, right? Because gee, why was they doing so? You might get confused. Many students actually get confused that these people are having loyalty to the Britishers, which is how is that acceptable? How can we call them great leaders? And many modern day people have also opposed them. You have to understand, because these people genuinely believe two three things. Like, number one thing, these moderates believed. So what was their belief? Their belief was that public opinion had to be created, and public opinion was not yet ready. Only few people could understand and foresee the situation created by the Britishers. Okay, and they believed genuinely, right, that their popular demands would be presented to Britishers, and they would present to them using speeches, petitions, right? They would use speech or the petition, or they would do meetings and pass the resolution, right? So then government would agree to those demands. That's how it was. Okay, so gradually, right, step by step, what is happening is, this method of political work is moving ahead, and slowly they felt that change would be happen, right? They believed that the parliaments would do justice to India, but they were not aware of the true state of affair in India, that the parliament was not aware. And if somehow they are made aware, they would do something for India, right? They genuinely believe that India's political connection was with Britain, was in the interest of India. It was a genuine belief. Okay, so that is why they will not focus on expelling the British from India, right? In fact, up to even 1905, what will you say? People like even Naroji, he is not saying that Britishers should be thrown out. He is also asking for only a self rule on the basis of the Dominion, as in England or in as in Australia, sorry, London, Canada or Australia. So the though on those lines, okay. So what were their demands over here? As I talked earlier, also I would like to say state few more demands of theirs. Okay, for example, their demands were on many lines, many multiple levels. So one of the primary demands of there was on the economic scale, and for example, there was a demand to reduce the land revenue, so that land revenue should be brought down. Then salt tax should be abolished. Okay, then they were talking about improving the working condition of the plantation labor, so they were focusing on them also. I've already talked about these things in a little detail earlier, right? I gave a running reference to these demands of the Congress, right? And they are also demanding that the military expenditure should be reduced, and modern industry should be protected. Government aid should be given to protect the industry. These are such demands were there, okay, and changed pattern of taxation, right? Better taxation policy should be brought. So such things were there. Like you will find these demands even today. We want reforms in agriculture, we want military reforms, industrial reform, taxation reform. We want all these things to be happening even today, right? And then administrative reforms, I've already talked to you, okay. So they basically were moderate, they were criticizing the government policies, okay. So you have to talk about, one is the economic reforms and one is the administrative reforms that actually happened, or they were demanding, right? For example, I would just quickly list them over here for the sake of listing it. ICA service reform was there, right? And then Arms Act should be repealed, that was there. Arms Act and executive and judiciary should be separated, so that was there, okay. And then there was on the police reforms were being sought, right? And then such things were happening, right? Judicial reforms were being sought, so such things were there, okay. Now this whole work of the political work of the Congress over here, it was two pronged. So what was their political work? I would talk about that. Their political work was two pronged. How? Number one, they would build up a strong public opinion. That was their basis, actually, okay. Strong public opinion, right? They would educate people, they would unite people on the political questions. And number two was, they would persuade British government. They would persuade the British government, after the formation of the about the, they would carry propaganda in Britain, right? For example, even in 1889, a British committee of INC is formed in London to raise awareness over there, right? And and not only this, okay. In fact, it deals with the happenings in London. This British Committee of INC, obviously, it's having its origin in India. That goes without saying. Then in 1890, they started a journal called India. This was, who started Journal India? It was by Indian National Congress. Please remember this thing, okay. And even it was once thought that in 1892 actually, that one of the Congress sessions should be done in England. We will go and have fun on River Thames. This is what everyone thought, okay. And so that we will make loud noises on the River Thames. Britishers will catch our attention and they'll get to know, right? Obviously that's not that way. I'm just helping you to remember the fact, but they were very serious people, okay. That I'm just getting with that. So what was the role of masses after the formation of the Congress? So the Congress had been formed, right? We're talking about the moderate phase. So Congress has been formed. There have been administrative and constitutional reforms and constitutional agitations. Okay. So the moderate the whole reform of the whole agenda of the political work was divided in two lines. But what was the role of the masses after the this passing of the Indian Council Act 1892? What were they doing? So first of all, you must understand that the masses, or let's say the social base, was very weak. And in fact, this was the weakness of the moderate phase, okay. And thus there were, because there was no mass support. Actually, these moderates, they believe that see, moderates, why did not moderate think of the militant way of struggle? Because moderate genuinely believed that mass struggle, see, okay, what was their belief? That mass struggle mass struggle against British, right? This mass struggle against British, it could be waged only, after. Now this can be waged only when there is unity, and when there is the heterogeneous elements of the country, the diversity in the country is united against the common enemy, that is the Britishers. Okay, and they knew that Indians are not prepared for what is known as the direct action, right? Lot of people can go and criticize it easily, that only solution was fighting the Britisher, we should have fought them directly. Arey bhai, please try to understand that Indians were not even prepared, and these were the genuine beliefs of the most honest and people with the most integrity and probity at that time, who were fighting against Britishers. Okay, I'll give you one more example. For example, the main point of difference between the moderates and the later nationalists is in the difference between the moderates and the people who came later on, the later nationalists, the moderates or the earlier nationalists. The difference between them, what is the difference between them? It is of the faith in masses. Okay, because masses could, they could grow or they could fall, right? Their faith, like, now nationalists believe that the masses are ready. See, I'll give you one very good quotation by Gokhale if you would like to write it, right? In fact, I should write it here. This is good for you to remember this way. Okay, so Gokhale is a moderate leader. Okay, this is what Gokhale has to say. He is a moderate leader. Okay, what is he saying? Let's write it here. You can write in your copy also. Please, if you're not writing, right, don't waste your time waiting for me to write this quote. Just try to remember it with me. Okay, so what it was saying, right? The endless divisions and subdivisions in country. This is what Gokhale has to say, right? This can come as an independent quote also in your prelim exam or mains exam. Who said that? Okay, so endless divisions and the subdivisions in country, the bulk of the population ignorant. The bulk of population ignorant. How will they fight? That is what he's saying. So endless divisions and subdivisions in country, the bulk of the population ignorant and clinging with a tenacity to the old modes. Okay, so and clinging with tenacity to old modes of old modes of what? Of thought and sentiment. Don't waste your time waiting for me this to write. Please write it on your mobile phone, your paper, wherever you can write it. Try to remember it right now. Okay, so endless division and subdivision in country, the bulk of population ignorant and clinging with tenacity to old modes of thought and sentiment, which are averse to all changes. बदलना ही नहीं चाहते वो, which are averse to all changes and do not understand change. उन्हें ये भी नहीं पता चेंज क्या है और क्यों होना है और कैसे होना है. They do not understand. What he is trying to suggest over here, the country is not ready. You cannot blame moderates that they did not believe in masses. The country was actually not ready, if you go by this statement. Okay, so I hope the something over here is a little clear. Okay, so Gokhale, I'll just repeat it: endless division and subdivision in country, the bulk of the population ignorant and clinging with tenacity to the old modes of thought and sentiment, which are averse to all changes and do not understand the change. Okay, this was said by Gokhale. He was talking about the moderates basically. Okay, so what was the attitude of the government overall at this time? Now we'll talk about that. Attitude of government. Okay, now attitude of government was like hostile to the Congress, and it was suspicious of Congress. Now this is another proof of it, that the Congress, there was nothing called safety wall theory. The British policy was nothing like that. Why would they be hostile and suspicious of Congress otherwise? Okay, and it was not possible, as I talked to you in the Congress lecture, that to make Congress without the help of a British, they would have subdued it easily. That is why we needed a help of a Britisher to make a Congress, right? So right, and Dufferin was the viceroy at this time, and he tried to divert the national movement by suggesting that to Hume, right, that Congress should devote itself to social than political affairs. So Dufferin, at that time, he said it to the secretary. He tried to divert this national movement by suggesting to Hume, right? Hume's not the secretary, but the Secretary General of the Congress at that time in 1885, by suggesting Hume that Congress should focus itself on the social issues than political affairs. But the Congress refuses to do that, and Congress sticks to the political affairs, and that is why after this, Dufferin openly starts criticizing Congress, openly criticizes Congress. That is what he's doing, right? And because Congress refused to change. In fact, he calls Congress by so many names. Dufferin says that the Congress is a factory of sedition. Okay, this can be questioned in paper. Who called Congress factory of sedition? It's a question simple as this. So he called Congress as a factory of sedition. And not only this, right, a lot of people, a lot of Britishers, they started branding Indian nationalists as what? They would call them disloyal babus. Disloyal babus. Okay, disloyal babus. Or they would call them seditious Brahmins. Seditious Brahmins. All these words can be there. They can be questioned, right? So Congress was called a factory of sedition by whom, or after whom, or by before whom, right? I mean, there can be question like on these lines, right? Or they were also like, they were given so many brands, like they were called violent villains, right? Whatever, even for little thing they were doing. Now Congress, to break the Congress now, this Britisher, they start the policy of the divide and rule. Okay, and how do they do that? By dividing Hindus from Muslims. They would divide them, but Hindus and Muslims are great friends, right? They would support Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, and by this time Sir Syed Ahmad Khan had gone crazy for his educational reform, and he had budged to the his criticism by the extreme Maulvis, those fanatics of that time. Right now he was a communal, even though his focus was education, but his actions were now turned communal. There was another person who was communal, and this person was the Raja Shiv Prasad of Benares. He was also communal at this time, right? How all these people were supported by the Britishers because they were so that they could run the anti-Congress movement, right? So this is how things were moving on, okay? And see, as I told you, that Dufferin, like, he called Congress as a factory of sedition. Like he said so many things, right? Dufferin also said earlier that he ridiculed Congress. He said he would call Congress a microscopic minority of people. Right, this is what he said, Dufferin, right? And then in 1900, Lord Curzon is there. He said to the Secretary of the State, what he says is that Congress is tottering to its fall, and one of my greatest ambitions while in India is to see its peaceful demise. These words, please mark these words. These have been asked in your paper. Who said these words? Peaceful demise of Congress. This was said by the Lord Curzon, okay? Lord Curzon, right? This is important over here, right? Anyways, now, how was the performance of the Congress and all other nationalists at this time? Now we will see that, okay? We will try to evaluate their performance of the Congress at this time. Performance, right? Okay, whatever the spelling, this should not be there, this F. Right, how was it? So we'll talk about that. See, what happens is, it was not much successful in its early phase, right? It was in its early phase. You cannot expect it to be very successful movement. Only few of their demands were agreed, right? But at the same time, it succeeded in creating a national awareness. They created national awareness. They exposed Britishers. That is their achievement. They exposed the Britishers. And then, their economic critique was very, very powerful. Economic powerful. Okay, this was powerful economic critique. That was very strong. Okay, that all that drain of wealth theory, right? And it laid the base for the future movements. I mean, the future movements could not have happened had this initial phase not been there. How would you even realize that the Britishers are bad and that the Britishers are for here, not for good of us? They exposed the Britishers, okay? They exposed Britishers, as I've written here. See, Britishers in India were based on two tenets. I have talked to you this thing about 200 times. What are those two? That the British rule is invincible. Number two, that the British rule is for the benefit of the Indians. So number one is the invincibility of the British rule, invincibility, and it is for the benefit of the Indians. So these two things were exposed by the moderates, right? And see, Britishers brought Indians into council for so that they whatever political steam is that is taken out, right? Right. But these moderate, they turned consuls, into into forums. They turned consuls into forums, just like what kind of forums, where they could expose the Britishers, they would show the defects of the British administration, they could raise the economy issue, they would discuss the budget, they would agitate, okay. And thus there was in overall, our national, this nationalistic structure or stature, this was getting raised, this was getting stronger, solidifying, okay. National movement was building up, and anti-imperialist stance, right, anti-imperialist stance was getting stronger, anti-imperialist stand was getting stronger. Are you getting it? Right. Please, I hope you are making notes. If you're not making notes, please listen to this lecture again. This will be yours forever. You won't need to revise this even. So anti-imperialist, and sentiment was being promoted, right? But there was one problem with this whole thing. First of all, it was, generally speaking, it was not much successful, but considering all this, you can say it was a success, okay. Right now, it made the but then there was few weaknesses, more weaknesses, like there was no involvement of the women, right? And no right to vote for all, only few people with certain kind of property could vote. So these things were issues, right? But overall, right, it made the people of India conscious of the bonds of, common social, political, cultural, and these interests, and of our common enemy in general, right? And thus, because of this, because of the working of the moderate leaders, what is the final outcome? What was their conclusion? They could help weld our country into one nation, right? So they also popularized these political, they trained people in political work. How did they train, right? They popularized the ideas of democracy, civil liberties, secularism, nationalism. So they trained people by giving them, spreading them, teaching them about the ideas, okay. And then they also popularized the modern ideas. And for the first time in India, we are having a national level organization fighting British in an organized manner, okay. And they revived, they kept alive the political activity. So this is also important. Whenever there was like dull period, the political activity was kept alive. See, when there is no political activity, how will you fight against Britishers? How will people get to know? There is a common citizen who has nothing to do, he's living his common life, right? That is why you might have heard some old people saying that even the British rule was better than today's rule. How do they say that? Because, like, no, one is someone is ruling, and one is like your common general life, like. So people, if in general life are not politically agitated, how will they fight the government of the day, right? So, and this movement, of course, created the base for the future, created base for future, okay. Now, I'll sum it up, right? I'll sum it up by borrowing a para from NCERT book, okay. And this para says that a weakness of early movement were to be removed by succeeding generation, right? आने वाली पुश्ते, next generations to come will remove the weaknesses of this earlier generation, earlier movement. The achievements were to serve as a base for more vigorous national movement in the later years. आने वाले सालों के अंदर this movement makes a base, a solid base for the future movements of the nationalist movement, of freedom movement of India. Now, in spite of their many weaknesses, the early nationalists, they laid a strong foundation for the nationalist movement to grow upon. And finally, how NCERT it beautifully concludes this chapter. It says the moderates deserve a high place among workers of among the makers of modern India. The moderates deserve a high place among the makers of the modern India. Okay, so that was the story of the moderates. Okay, and now in the next lecture I would talk to you about the partition of Bengal. Right, partition of Bengal. We will talk all the details of this, and then after there would be a chapter, most probably it will be on the governor generals of this time, and then in this lecture, the next one and next one, that means a total of 3 lectures, we will be done with the history from 1885 to 1905. Okay, Now, okay, yeah, one more thing over here is that before you go, I just have one request to you. If you could please, share this video with others, that I would be humbled with that, right? That helps me know you are liking this. And if you don't want to share, please click on the like button. That is really encouraging for me. I can make better videos. Even after, prelim exam, I will continue to make videos. And then, if you want all these videos to come right into your email box, subscribe to us. To subscribe, you will have to click over here at the subscribe button. So that is all, and thank you so much for watching this video.